Be relentless in the pursuit of the things that will make you happy. Your tribe will find you. Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode number 95. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells, and the goal of this show is to help you transition from where you have to be to where you want to be in life, providing you with the tools, support, encouragement, and accountability to make it happen. That's what I want to do every single episode, every blog post that I write, every video that I produce. That's what I want to do. I want to help you transition from the box that you've put yourself in, the situation that you've put yourself in, or maybe it was handed it to you, you inherited it, but I want you to live the life that you want to live. And if I haven't made that clear over the last couple episodes, if it hasn't been expressed in a way that the average person can understand, I apologize. I know sometimes I don't always make a clear and concise message, and I apologize for that, and I'm going to do better. But we'll get to that here in just a second. Before we get started, I want to give a couple thank yous. Just this past weekend, I was at Podcast Movement in Fort Worth, Texas. I had an absolute blast. But after the conference was done, I held a small private meetup. I didn't invite just tons of people. I started off by inviting coaching clients, mastermind clients, and friends, family, people who I've developed a close connection with over the last couple of years, or maybe like some, it's been the last several years. But I wanted to give a special thank you to the people who came to that meetup and made me and my wife Ashley feel just super special. And so thank you, Ben Adam Smith, Donald Kelly, Shay Harms, Scott Barlow, James Kinson, Josh Elledge, Catalyst John, Matt Lovell, Barbara Miller, Jason Beaton, and of course, thank you to my mom. But it's all about community, guys. If you are out there building something and you've locked yourself in your home office, or you're going to the coffee shop where you've got your headphones on and you're not really connecting with anybody, you're making a big mistake. And I did that for, 6 or 7 months after I went full-time at being an entrepreneur, and I kind of went crazy. Well, not really crazy, but stir crazy. We crave human connection, and even our animals kind of crave human connection. When we got home yesterday, our cat Boomer was, for some reason, not waiting at the door, but she quickly came downstairs, and she's just kind of been not leaving our side. And much as we might think that we want to be the lone wolf, go ahead and charge forward without anybody else, we need that connection. It's about community, and I wanted to thank the people who showed up to the meetup on Sunday. I just wanted to say an extra thank you. But in this episode, we're going to look at a handful of things. Instead of just doing one of what I will guess is hundreds of podcast movement recaps, what you learned, what was fun, blah, blah, blah. I've got 3 specific things. I took several pages of notes, but I have gone over them several times. The first time with my mastermind group, the second time, I guess was another mastermind group. And in prep for this episode, I've distilled 3 things that I think we all can learn from. 3 things that we can look at, we can apply to our business, and move forward with a specific plan on how to move forward and do things better. So we're going to look at 3 things from Podcast Movement. I want to share a couple quotes. I don't usually do quotes on the show, but there are 4 quotes that I want to share that I heard over the last few days that really made an impact on me. They will move the needle. They will cause a pivot. They will cause me to do things differently, and I want to share those with you because I think that they will add value to your life and maybe even cause a redirect or a pivot or a change of direction for you as well. And then I need your help. Last year at Podcast Movement, I decided that I was going to make a few changes with the podcast, with the business, and I think that's the sign of a good conference. So this year, I have found a few more things that I want to do differently, some things that I want to change, and I need your help. I've got 3 specific areas where I want to do better, where I want to meet your needs, the needs of other listeners, the other readers of the blog, where I want to make real and effective change in my business, in my marketing, and I want to serve your needs better. That's what it all comes down to. Every change that I want to ask your help with, it comes to making your life easier and better, providing you with more tools, and again, help you transition from this place of where you currently are, where you feel maybe that you have to be, and transition to where you want to be in life. It is possible. I've seen it. I've been there. I've felt it, and I want that for you. So that's what we're going to look at. And then the final thing that we will touch on today is kind of a bolo, a be on the lookout. In addition to the changes that I want to make, I've got a new giveaway that I'm not going to do right now. I just finished one. Congratulations to Amy up in Washington. I still need to send her one of the books, but I just did a giveaway. I'm not going to do one here in August. It will be a little bit down the road. So if you want to know about that, go to empoweredpodcast.com/95. Find one of those subscription links. Just enter your email, confirm it, and I will let you know about that next giveaway and let you enter to win that. It's some stuff that I'm excited about. So go to empoweredpodcast.com/95. All right, let's do this. Okay, so even if you didn't go to Podcast Movement, do not tune out, because these are some relatively universal lessons. What we're going to talk about here in the next couple of minutes are things that you can employ and start doing immediately, but at the same time, these are going to be month-long projects, and I want that to be exciting to you. I don't want that to feel like, oh my goodness, I will never be able to finish this. That's not it at all. I want you to look forward to this because it's a process of growth. Nothing good will just happen instantly. As we are going through these, maybe you will want to grab a pen, grab some paper. In one of my mastermind calls yesterday, which, by the way, was the first one that I was able to do or had the need to do from a hotel room, which just showed me that my business can be taken anywhere. And if you build your business maybe like I have, or it's online or something, you can take your business anywhere and work from a hotel room if you want, or you can work from the back porch at home like I do all the time. Anyway, I was talking to my friend Rocco, and he was talking about how he never went to the show notes page for the podcast. He listened, he loved the show, but he never actually went to the website. Well, he never went to the website because he was in the car. And many of you may listen in the car or while you are on the treadmill, but hopefully you are keeping mental notes, or maybe it's actual notes and you have pen and paper in front of you. But either way, these are some things that I found extremely important, and out of all of my pages of notes in Podcast Movement, these are the 3 things that I think are worth your time. I don't want to waste it, so let's do this. So the number 1, storytelling. A quote from Roman Mars, who has 40 million downloads of his show, 99% Invisible. He said, if you tell the story right, even the most annoying things can become amazing. And he told the story of this building, I think it might have been in Chicago, I'm not sure, where the architects had been requested by the company. I think it might have been Montgomery Ward. The architects had been requested to create the structure, the frame of the building, so that there were no corner offices. And he was talking about how this was a relatively boring, somewhat ugly building. And he showed us a slide, and honestly, it wasn't pretty compared to some of the other buildings that you might have seen, some of these architectural marvels. I saw the D.R. Horton building in Fort Worth. That probably wasn't its original name, but it was really cool. And I went on a boat tour of Chicago and saw some architecture, some amazing buildings. And this Montgomery building with these weird columns in the corners so that there's no corner offices, it wouldn't be pretty. It wouldn't be one that you would hang a poster of in your office and say, wow, that's cool, I'm inspired or whatever. But this story, the story of this building told by Roman Mars was really awesome. And it just goes to show that what he said was true. If you tell the story the right way, if you tell the right story and you connect and you do your research, the most annoying or basic things can become really interesting and turn into fantastic stories. And that was proven by Sarah Koenig, who is the host of Serial. She did the closing keynote on Sunday, and she delivered, well, it was definitely a full-on production presentation. It just wasn't a basic keynote where you stand up and deliver, but she gave what could have been a relatively boring presentation. Her podcast, the first season anyway, has been downloaded 94 million times, and it's a story about a guy who may or may not have murdered this girl. It's this true story. Well, her keynote was about the production of that and what it took, how they researched it, and it goes to show, and it was fascinating, but it goes to show that great storytellers can turn something that should have been boring, like statistics and the documentary of a documentary. That just sounds like super cool, right? You're thinking, oh, a documentary of a documentary. That's just, oh, wow. But she told it in a story that was really fantastic. So we can always be improving our storytelling ability. We can always do a little bit more research. We can always do that next level of investment. Maybe it will take more time, but the quality of production, and I'm going to work on this too, the quality of production when taken to that next level can do some really cool and amazing things. And so the first takeaway from Podcast Movement, one that maybe you can't start improving immediately, but you can begin the journey of improvement, is improving your storytelling. And in my storytelling, I'm not just telling you, but we can improve our storytelling abilities. The second one is quality. And another one of my mastermind members got a rejection letter in the mail or a rejection email a few weeks ago. And when she sent it to me, I could tell she was fairly sad. And she told me later that once the tears had dried up, she began to look at this rejection email. And the rejection email said that the publisher had looked at this woman's social media, her blog, her podcast, and the quality wasn't exactly what they were looking for. And it was interesting to me because her quality seems good, but it wasn't good enough. And I want to encourage you with a few things that we talked about after she had gotten this email. That failure is required. And we have to break step one before we can go to step two. Let me say that in a different way. You have to totally screw up on step one. You have to break it. You have to ruin your progress and get frustrated and cry. Hopefully you don't throw anything against the wall, but you have to totally screw up and fail step one before you can get to step two. Hear me on that. I have so many people coming to me and they're kind of stuck. It feels like they're walking through mud. And I usually tell stories about me. Maybe I'll tell that here in a second. But you have to bust it up on step one before you can get to step two. How did I learn so much about WordPress and all this stuff? I'm no engineer, but how did I learn some of the things that I learned? Because I broke it. I have always been fixing things. My mom would tell me I'd get broken watches and see if I could fix them, or VCRs and stuff. But I've broken my website at least a dozen times over the last almost 4 years, where there was a file that at the bottom of it said, don't edit below this line. Well, I wanted to swap out the text and change the link, and I edited below that line. Well, when you refresh my page, it was blank. No error message. No, this site's going under maintenance. I edited below the line and I broke my website. In fact, just a couple months ago, I broke my website. I was able to fix it pretty quick, but I'm always tinkering. And you can't get to that next step until you totally fall flat on your face. So there have been books out there, there have been stories told about fail faster. I think Watson said that, Isaac Watson, whoever it was that started IBM. And he said, if you want to succeed faster, fail faster. And that's so true. And if you think, oh, well, I can do this without failing, stop trying. Just stop. Go fail. Go out there and do something stupid and break your site, break your podcast, break your whatever, and figure out how to fix it. Stop trying to be perfect, because there's a quote that we'll share here in a few minutes that Aisha Tyler said about perfection that I love. But stop trying to be perfect. Nobody cares that it's perfect. In fact, that's probably working against you. Go out there, fall flat on your face, and remember you can't get to step 2 until you've totally busted up and failed on step 1. A quote from Roman Mars regarding quality: the key to producing great work is to produce more work. And I also want to encourage you that there's a big difference between overproduction and professional. There's a difference between being real, authentic, and raw, and having the Blair Witch Project in your kitchen. One of my clients, she is challenged with, it's the same one actually, the same one that got this rejection letter. She wants to be real and authentic. She wants to have a little bit of clutter because that's who she is and that's who she wants to talk to, busy moms. And that's what I'm trying to communicate with her is you don't have to be overproduced. You don't have to look like you're on a soap opera or some ABC talk show, but the quality of the production has to be elevated. And it has to be at the level where you can connect on a professional level with the people who will buy her goods. And the same thing applies to you where you are. I mean, you can have a rustic outdoor camping store like REI, but that doesn't mean that there's dirt and animal fur on the floor. You see what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense, because NPR, by the way, got a lot of flack, and I heard a lot of people saying, well, I don't want an NPR show, which usually that's followed by some statement about overproduction, hours worth of production quality, and that's not who people like you and people like me are, and the people who are attending Podcast Movement. They want that connection. They want to feel like they're sitting across the table with who they're listening to or the guest, and I want to provide that as well. However, when you turn into the Empowered Podcast, hopefully you are getting great audio quality and you're getting a quality message, but you still feel like you are sitting in the room with me. I hope you do. I hope that's the message that I convey, but at the same time, you get a sense of quality. So storytelling, number 1, quality, number 2. The third thing is consistency. Now, I got a couple things that I want to point out specifically, but when in general, when it comes to consistency, you want that's your brand. You want people to feel like it's familiar when they go to your website, when they go to your podcast, or when they walk into your store or your chiropractic office. They want to feel like this is you. They want to feel like this, I saw Corey in person, I saw Corey's newsletter, and now I'm walking into Corey's store, and this feels like him. Or when they go to Rocco's website and they get his personality by reading his blog, and they tune into his podcast, they want to see that is an extension of that same personality. So whenever you're doing those same things with ElleryWells.com, or you head to Empowered Podcast, you listen to me on iTunes or Stitcher, hopefully you are getting this sense of who I am, of someone who is trying, who is learning and failing, but also doing incredible things and meeting fascinating people and moving the people around him in a forward direction. So whenever you are looking at your business, whether you're writing a book, creating a podcast, creating an online course, which I heard a lot about, people want to get this consistent experience. They want to know when they go to Renee's website that they are getting Renee, not somebody else. So when it comes to consistency, here's a few things that I noticed that I don't know that everyone else noticed. So Pat Flynn, who is smartpassiveincome.com, he also has the SPI podcast. Well, he did the opening keynote on Saturday. the same fonts that are the podcast artwork for Pat's every new episode. That was the same font that was on his slides. Just a interesting thing, but it created a consistency. Maybe it was subconscious for him. Maybe it created something only subconscious for the audience. But having that same font, it's a tiny detail, but it created a sense of the familiar. I knew that it was a Pat Flynn presentation. Even if he hadn't been on the stage, I could tell that Pat Flynn had a hand in it, and it was really cool. Then finally, in Sarah Koenig's keynote, this is the last. So Pat opened with a fantastic production and story. Sarah closed with a fantastic production and story. The slides and the look and the sounds and everything felt like a Serial podcast. And in full disclosure, I've never listened to a full episode of Serial. I listened to about 2 minutes, and I moved on to something else. I honestly don't know if it was that it didn't grip me or that I was just busy and needed to move on to something else. I honestly have no idea. But in both of these cases, their production, their keynote was an extension of their brand. And they honestly did that better than anybody else that I saw, except for maybe Anthony Tran. Anthony did a really good job with his presentation. He had a breakout session, Anthony Tran of marketingaccesspass.com. He did a fantastic job as well. But specifically, Pat and Sarah, their production, their keynote was an extension of their brand, and it was very obvious and honestly appreciated. Okay, so let me throw out some quotes for you. Quotable quotes, if you will. The first one, well, let me back up one step. Each one of these quotes hopefully will cause you to look at the world and your business differently. Each one, I sifted through all of my notes, and I picked out a few things that changed something in me and how I want to do things, how I want to meet people's needs, how I see connecting with people. So I pulled them out. I wanted to share them with you, and hopefully they will cause you to improve or change or pivot or make this alteration in what you are doing so that you get different and therefore, in this case anyway, better results. Be relentless in the pursuit of the things that will make you happy. Your tribe will find you. Aisha Tyler said that in her keynote, and she's rated R, man. She is bold and unapologetic, and it's awesome. And I would encourage you to be the same thing. Don't change who you are, and hopefully I'm not changing who I am. Hopefully the people who met me this past weekend or at any of the conferences feel like who I am behind the microphone is who they read on the blog and who they meet in person. But be relentless in the pursuit of the things that will make you happy, and your tribe will find you. Aisha also said, don't be afraid to pivot. No one is interested in perfection. Don't get locked into a plan. And that's the quote I mentioned before about perfection, nobody caring. Not that these guys are perfect, but these big name people, so many new podcasters want to have the big name person on their podcast. They think it will do great and amazing things. And Kimanzi Constable and Jared Easley are, I think it's pre-release. I don't think it has even hit bookshelf stores yet, but they have written a book together called Stop Chasing Influencers. And I couldn't agree more. And keep listening because I want to give a copy of that away. I couldn't agree more that we should stop chasing influencers, because these people, you're probably thinking of a big name person right now. Forget about that person. If you want to have a blog, forget about having them as a guest poster or whatever. If you have a podcast, forget about having them on your show. Connect with the real people whose journey you can relate to and your audience can relate to. And I'm going to use audience in a general term, not necessarily for blogging or podcasting or whatever, but share the story of people who you can connect with and you can connect your audience with, because I can't relate to making $100,000 a month. I can't relate to making $549,000 a month, which is Pat Flynn and John Dumas, respectively. But the person who is struggling to figure it out, and I use Megan Pangon. What's up, Megan? we can't relate to those types of people. Maybe you can, I can't. But someone like Megan, who is working to figure it out. She is building a business one step at a time, injecting her personality, figuring out budgeting, how to get the first client, first customer, how to niche down and focus. Those are the types of stories, tools, tips, and tricks that we can relate to, you and I. By the way, I had an excellent experts call inside my membership site this past week with Alex Harris, and he gave answers to all of those questions and how he had built his business. So you could check that out as well. But stop chasing influencers. Stop trying to focus on perfection and share a real story, a behind the scenes look at what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. And that's what people will relate to. Next quote, get better at the basics and teach them. If you're not going to teach someone for free, someone else will. And I've mentioned Corey on my show. He's a local friend here in the Round Rock area. And he and I have had this same conversation. Show people how to do what you want to do. Get those basics out of the way, and they'll come to you for the more advanced stuff. And this applies to whatever business you're in. And I applied it to lawn care. And I was coaching one of these guys about how they should create kind of a lawn maintenance guide, a free guide to make your lawn more beautiful. And on one hand, it seems counterintuitive. These guys are wanting to be hired to do lawn work, so why would we tell the consumer how to do these things for us? Well, if you're not showing them, we're going to go on YouTube. Over 50% of millennials believe that they can find the answers to whatever they need on YouTube. And YouTube, for the most part, is free. So if you're not helping people, somebody else is. If your brand is not in front of them, somebody else's brand is in front of them. And to say the quote again is, get better at the basics and teach those basics. And if you aren't going to teach your potential audience for free, someone else is going to do it, and you're going to lose that business. You're going to lose that connection, and you're not going to be the one making a difference in somebody else's life. Someone else would do it. And honestly, their quality might not be as good as your quality. So you're letting that kind of B team player get in front of your audience instead of yourself. And you're missing a chance to connect. So the next quote, do for some what you wish you could do for everyone. And Cliff Ravenscraft told me that. He said that in his keynote, and I think I've heard him say that before. I don't know if that's an original Cliff Ravenscraft quote, but do for some what you wish you could do for everyone. And I'm going to start doing that in my own business. Whenever someone signs up for my membership site, I'm going to record a welcome email. I haven't gotten to that yet. We've been back home in Round Rock for less than 24 hours, so I haven't had all of my video equipment, but I want to do that. I know I won't be able to create a video welcoming everyone, but at least in these early stages, when there are less than 1,000 people in the membership site, I can do that, and I want to. I want to build that connection, build that relationship, and I want to answer those questions personally as much as I can and for as long as I can. So do for some what you wish you could do for everyone. The last one, be specific enough to be believable and universal enough to be relevant. I don't know if that's an original Mike Kim quote, but I love that as well. That's what we started off Saturday morning learning. Be specific enough to be believable and universal enough to be relevant. When you are sharing your story, think about enough detail to make things really relatable. And Mike used the analogy of the Papa John's About page. I think it was the About page, where it's talking about how John, I'm assuming that's his name for Papa John, started his pizza company out of a closet, and they gave pictures and names and locations of this historical journey that Papa John's has gone down. And anyone who was in that area would go and try to find that restaurant. I know I would. I like Papa John's. They have the garlic and the pepperoncinis, whatever they're called. And if I were in the area of where it was started, I would probably go and try to find it, maybe not go through a tour, but I'd go and check it out. And it's those specifics that are what people relate to. When you go to a conference and you say, hey, I'm from Austin, and you hear somebody else say, oh, I'm from Austin too. It's specific enough to be relatable, and you can build that connection. So now we get to where I need your help. There, as I mentioned before, there are things that I want to do differently. There are ways that I want to help you even more throughout your journey, as whether you are in a corporate job, whether you are a full-time entrepreneur, business owner. There are things that I want to do that will make your life easier, help move you forward, make more sales, take some of the headaches off of your plate, help you connect better with other people, develop your email marketing, whatever it is. I want to help you with those things. But here's where I need your help. I don't always know the questions that you have. Up until this point, I have just looked back on my journey over the last few years at the struggles that I've had and how I have overcome those challenges and figured out a solution. And for the most part, that has worked fairly well. However, my struggles aren't necessarily your struggles. And if you're going through something and you're just racking your brain trying to figure out a solution, you've searched and found a bunch of videos on YouTube or something, maybe the quality's not great, or maybe you just want to get my opinion and you like how I'm doing something and want to know how I do it, ask me. If there's a question that you have, I want to answer that question. And here's how I want to change how I am answering those questions. So I want to incorporate more video into my business. Many of the sessions that I went to at Podcast Movement were focused on marketing and incorporating video with your business and podcast. And I want to start doing that. If you've listened to the show that I have with my wife, you can find it at ashleyandellery.com. It's a show called Occasionally Explicit, and it's me and my wife talking about entrepreneurship, marriage, all those kinds of things. It does get explicit a couple times, so it's not necessarily for the kids. But in one of our recent episodes, we talked about cameras and what I was looking at and how I would want to use them in my business and for fun. And I want to start adding more video, more images, more visual things to the brand. As you may know, I started off as a blogger 3 years ago. 2 years ago, I started the podcast. And last year, I went full-time at this. So it was text-based, then audio-based, and now I want to move into video. So any of these questions, if you think it's already been asked, don't think it's already been asked. Ask me anyway, and I'll either record a new video for you answering that question, or I'll send you a link to where I've answered that question before. But I want to incorporate more video, and I want to answer more of your questions, because what I have found is that if one person has a question, usually there's a handful of others. And if there's 3 or 4 people that come to me with the same question, there's probably hundreds or thousands of people that have the same question. You might be the first to bring it to my attention. You might not, but you'll never know if you don't ask. And I will do everything that I can to help you. You have my word on that. I want to help you build or grow or start or whatever. I want to help you in your business. And however I can do that, that's my commitment to you. So I want to incorporate more video. And you can keep me accountable on this next bit too. I want to be better at my branding. Because here's the thing. Everything that we do is a reflection and a representation of our brand. And we need to behave accordingly. So while I love these impromptu videos, I shot one last week about having a supportive spouse or what you could do if you didn't have a supportive spouse. I just turned on the camera and I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I love that kind of stuff because it's spontaneous, it's off the cuff, but I realized I need to do a better job of branding. I don't think I had my logo, and it's not just about logos, but I want people to be able to see that and know that it's a real Ellery video. And people have asked me that question, and I wanted to respond to the video. And I think the information was good. I believe in it. Actually, it's been watched tons of times on Facebook. So people are liking and sharing the content, but I need to be better at branding, and I need to up the quality. So keep me accountable on that. Also, I want to do, I mentioned answering these questions, but I want to do a community Q&A type video. I want to incorporate these videos, have them on my site, have them up on YouTube, maybe take the audio from those and deliver them to you via the podcast, however that actually takes shape, again, I want to answer those questions. I want to remove obstacles that are keeping you from succeeding. And in many ways, I'm doing that now with the blog, podcast, coaching, masterminds, the membership site. I have something that will help people at all budget levels. And it's not just about money, but, that's also dedication. Someone who's at the membership site's more of the DIY. Maybe they are a little bit more strapped for cash, whereas someone who is paying for coaching, that's all in. That is some serious dedication, and I have things almost at all levels in between. Lastly, a couple things to be on the lookout for. I'm doing another giveaway. I mentioned that at the beginning of the episode. I have a few books that I am reading. I have received, but I'll tell you one, and I'm pretty excited about this. It's one of the pre-release books of Stop Chasing Influencers, and it's signed by one of the authors. I'm still working on getting a signature from the second author, but Kamanzi Constable himself has signed this book, and I got two signed copies. I'm keeping one, but I want to give you a copy. I also got a book written by digital marketers Ryan Deiss that will talk about the invisible selling machine. And I am 10 or 12 pages into that, loving it already. Well, I'm loving both of them already. I've just had a little bit more time with the digital marketer book. And I want to give those away. I'll probably throw in a couple more things. So stay tuned for that. Be on the lookout for that. And be on the lookout for more videos as well. Here's what I want you to do. After all of this, if you have enjoyed this episode, if you've liked this content, go to ElleryWells.com/awesome. All you got to remember is my name and awesome. And sign up for my email list. Join the community. You will get advance notice of any speaking engagements that I'm going to be at. If I'm going to be in your area, I will let you know first. I give exclusive and valuable, extremely valuable, or so I'm told by the people who I send it to, extremely valuable information that I don't give anywhere else. So go to ElleryWells.com/awesome. That's all you got to remember, /awesome. And you'll be on that list. You will get that information. And I might even be shaking up the emails that I will be sending you over the next few weeks. I've got a lot of stuff, guys. That's the power of these conferences. It's not just the community, but it's these fantastic ideas. And I've got a ton. I've got pages and pages of notes, things that I want to implement. So be on the lookout for all of those. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells, and the goal of my show is to help you transition from where you have to be to where you want to be in life by providing you with the tools, encouragement, support, accountability, and everything that you need to make it happen. Go do something awesome. We'll see you next week.